Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. You're listening to the Franchise Fluent Podcast, where we keep you fluent in all things franchising, small business, and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Austin Titus, and I'm joined today by Doug here. And so thanks for joining us, Doug.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so Doug here is the president, leader, founder, I'm not sure your exact title, of Structural Elements. And so, Doug, thanks for joining. Why don't you start off by talking a little bit about your business and kind of introducing the audience to your business?
Yeah, well, you couldn't really go wrong when selecting a title, right? Because as a founder who chooses to franchise their business, your CEO, your CMO, your CFO, right? You know, I've been the president at times. I've had a president at times. So, you kind of do a little bit of it all. So, if you aren't ready to do that, don't sign up, for growth, right? So, but yeah, Structural Elements is the name of the company, and we were founded in 2006 and started as an education company. And in 2013, opened our first brick and mortar, and it turned out really well. And we kind of said, hey, this is something that can be reproduced. And 2015, brought in my first business partner and investor, and we basically Googled, how do you start a franchise, right? And started from there, right? And so it's just kind of been a steep climb ever since.
Awesome. And so talk a little bit about the products or services that you guys offer and who your consumer is, just so the listeners understand that.
Yeah, so Structural Elements is an orthopedic wellness company. And a lot of people, when they hear those two words together, orthopedic and wellness, they get a little confused, because most people think of orthopedics as joint replacements and, shoulder surgery. And sure, that's part of it. But the other side is all of the preventative measures that can be taken. So our core customer base is active individuals. So, we do have people that are in back pain and have knee pain and are trying to, avoid surgery, or, just trying to get out of pain without medications, things like that. But most of our customers have active goals. So some of those are professional athletes, some of those are Olympic athletes, some of those are high school athletes. And then we have, also people that just want to, be able to walk the golf course. We have grandmas and grandpas that want to be able to get down on the floor and play with their grandkids and not hurt the next day. So it's really just a pretty wide, breadth of population. But, in our brick and mortar clinics, we offer a number of services. We offer something called the SE treatment, which is a kind of a combination of acupuncture, dry needling, soft tissue work, some manipulation, some exercise prescription. We offer massage, assisted stretching. We have Pilates. We have a number of different offerings, even nutritional counseling and health coaching. And so it's really kind of the one-stop shop for preventative orthopedic care.
Okay. And so expand a little bit on kind of the franchise model there, and kind of what you're looking for in a franchise investor with the model, and, what are some of the details of running the business, really?
Sure. Yeah. Well, if I back up just a little bit, why did we select franchise as our path, right? So basically, we were looking at intellectual property protection for our proprietary approach. Okay. And because it was publicly taught, getting intellectual property protection through patenting, even a service patent, really was impossible to do, because when you're dealing with the human body, it's already hard to patent a process. And then because it was already publicly taught, it wasn't a path to protect the integrity and the brand. Outside of copywriting and our trademarking, unless somebody is using our logos, it's kind of hard to go after them. But franchise gave us two things. It gave us the ability to have quality assurance and to have kind of contractual standards of anybody that's using our, work and using our brand, that we have recourse. But even more so than that for me, I taught continuing ed for a long time, and you get weekend workshops of therapists coming in to fulfill their CEUs, right? But beyond that, you lose access to that population. And so for me, I really wanted to mentor therapists throughout their career to make them exceptional therapists and continue to nurture their ongoing facilitation of growth, as well as help them build a sustainable business that had some sort of legacy and they could, have something that lived beyond them in terms of their careers. So that's really kind of why franchise, became the model. Again, steep learning curve. Day one, it's like, this is a football, right? It's okay. So, it's like we started trying to write our operations agreements, and we got lucky enough we had an attorney that we had hired, and we're working on our operating agreement between me and my partner. And the attorney connected us with a franchise attorney that we were going to, use to get our documents together. And he hooked us up with somebody that all they did is wrote operating manuals. And so it was like getting my MBA from Harvard in franchise business. It was like we met every single week for like a year, and she gave me a ton of homework that I had to have done by the next time we met. And I just felt like I was going in front of, like getting my thesis and going in front of, my advisor. And it was a combination of, this is how we do business now, with this is how you should be running a business to make it scalable, right? And so we kind of built the ship in the air a little bit of amending some of the systems of how we were doing things, and then, documenting and archiving the things that we were doing well. And so that just kind of became the process of adopting best practices. After taking in some investors and starting down the legal path, we hit a brick wall, and that brick wall was something called the corporate practice of medicine. Okay. And this is one of those things like, it's like, you don't know what to look for when you don't know what to look for. Okay. And basically, for those of you that aren't familiar, the corporate practice of medicine means that if you want to open up a medical practice as a non-doctor, in most places, you can't hire doctors, right? So even a chiropractor can't, if you're not a chiropractor, you can't hire a chiropractor, and what we've started doing a little bit of research, we have like a 30-page document that's a matrix of all the who cans, who can'ts, who can hire who, state by state. It is very, very difficult. It's very convoluted. So we thought there's no way we can scale and manage this if in one state a PT can hire a chiropractor, but in another state they can't. And, we're in trouble here. So, we got good legal counsel, and we started looking for how do we structure this thing so that, it's a non-issue, because we still want to scale this thing. We want to make it developer friendly, right? We want somebody that's interested in, doing a regional development agreement to open up, they want to buy the rights to Atlanta, and we want to sell them, the regional development rights and open up, 6 clinics over the next 4 years, right? That's the growth path that we want to make this attractive to. And therapists, and no offense, because I'm one of them, but in general are terrible business owners. Okay, so if we limited our pool to only being able to have chiropractors and physical therapists and acupuncturists open these clinics, we're just going to deal with a very small, pool of people that are eligible, right? They're not going to have the access to capital. They're not going to have the stomach or the acumen to really run it well, especially if they're in the treatment room. Not saying that there aren't people out there that can do that, but it's a limited pool. So because of this corporate practice thing, our regional development plans were just came to a screeching halt. And so we had to figure out how to create a model that would accommodate regional development and having, therapists and chiropractors and docs in the system that weren't employees of the franchisee. And so we came up with something that we call the network growth model. And the network growth model is ultimately a path for multiple different layers of people to be involved. So if now today you could open up a structural elements clinic as a non-doctor, okay? But your business is simply the business of renting space to the docs, okay? A lot of people are familiar with some of the salon suite models, right? It's a shared cost environment. And so they're in the business of renting turnkey ready space to people in the salon industry. So we borrowed that a little bit, right? That's one of the examples that we had seen. And so now, if somebody opens up a structural elements clinic, they have a couple hourly employees that work the desk. We call them patient care coordinators. They are responsible for collecting all of the fees. They're responsible for scheduling all of the appointments, for greeting the patient, taking them back to the room, and they're responsible for cleaning the rooms and making sure that the clinic is supplied, right? That's pretty much it. The therapists that work in the clinic are under what's called a micro franchise agreement with us. Okay. That also solves for something. If they were your employees, we can't recruit them. We can't train them. We can't touch them. We can't mentor them. Okay. So it's really limiting in that way. But because the docs are under a micro agreement with us, now you just opened your clinic. Your business is to fill those rooms. Okay. We can now help recruit those franchisees, those micros for you. We can train them. We can hold them accountable to a standard of care. We do a quality assurance review on them, and we can continue to nurture their ongoing growth. So it's two different levels, right? The clinic owner and the micro franchisee, we're just bringing those two together.
Interesting. And so with the micro franchises that you have within your spaces, are there like certain brand names, or do the medical professionals just go off of their name as if, as medical professionals do typically?
No. So part of what they're buying in as a micro franchise is they're buying into practicing under our name.
Gotcha.
Right? So their DBA is structural elements. Okay.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
but when they show up day one, they've got their business cards, they've got rack cards to go out and market, they've got a presence on our website, they've got a newsletter that goes out to a huge population introducing them and their background. We do outbound patient acquisition for them. We host events that we feature them at. We have PowerPoint templates to send them out into the public and to go and we do ongoing trainings. We do calls. It's like we can support them. That's what they're buying into. That's what they pay their royalties for, right?
Absolutely. So that's really unique. I haven't seen many models that mimic that structure. And so, sorry if I missed this, but how many professionals are in each one of your facilities?
Yeah, so we're the biggest facility here in Northern Maryland in Hagerstown, and we have 8 clinicians that are here with us. The other clinics are a little smaller footprint. They're in Frederick and in Milwaukee, so their capacity is a little bit less. We have connected to our clinics. There's a little bit of a business within the business. There's another identity called SE Lab. Lab stands for Learn and Apply Balance. So we kind of have the clinical aspect of what we do, and then Lab, Learn and Apply Balance, is like more of the, we do Pilates, we do like supervised fitness, we create curated home exercise programs for people. And in Milwaukee, they actually just opened a freestanding SE Lab 2 doors down. So they have more like functional movement, recovery. They have a sauna in there. So it's Lab is kind of taking on its own life force a little bit, and that's also our patient-facing mobile application is SE Lab, that people, even if they're not in our clinics, they can benefit from a lot of the resources that our patients in our clinics have access to.
Yeah, that's great. And so with all this being said, your business model has a couple different layers to it.
No doubt.
It has different layers to it. And with that, as you were saying, the medical professional that might naturally be attracted to this business model might not be the best prospect for this. Not saying they can't, and there definitely can in some instances, in many instances. But what type of franchise prospect are you looking for exactly? Like, what profile of a person are you looking for? I know you mentioned the area development type opportunities, which would be ideal.
No doubt
with
about
those.
So we, when we went this direction, we absolutely were basing ourselves on the thesis that the explosion in boutique fitness was a perfect lineup for us to have a wellness concept in the same strip. Right. So the idea of multi-brand, multi-unit owners who have multiple fitness concepts in a similar strip at some point in time, you're cannibalizing your customer base to a certain degree, right? That customer is going to work out 4 days a week, for 1 hour, per workout. And they have to choose between, am I going to row today? Am I going to cycle today? Am I going to do Pilates today? And our concept is that we are an and. Right? Leverage that customer base a second time, because they're going to go work out 4 times and they're going to come and get a massage, and they're going to come in and get a treatment. Right? So we thought, for fitness verticals, that we would be attractive in adding a very complementary, synergistic wellness brand. Right? And if somebody gets hurt and they can't work out, right, then you've lost that customer versus gained that customer next door. Right. So, as far as customer acquisition, it makes perfect sense. The industry of franchise, it's a really interesting thing, because the growth path is it's still a bit of a mystery to me as to how people get from A to C. Right. And so, for the regional developer side of things, and really to get properly capitalized and everything, most people want a minimum of 10 company owned units with consistent unit economics and really, kind of a tried and true model before people are going to take that model, invest in it, and reproduce it. Makes sense. If I look at it on the investor side, right, at the developer side, I'm not looking to take risks, right? I want to make sure, I want to buy somebody else's mistakes, right? I don't want to, learn as we go. But because we built this system in the air a little bit, right, an existing clinic that was doing really well, that we converted into this model that was a workaround for corporate practice of medicine, and gave developers, medical tenants, let me just pause on that. Medical tenants are the best tenants you can ever have, right? 0.05% default rate. Right? Restaurants, you've got like a 90% default rate over the life of a lease in some areas, right? So the stability of a medical tenant is an ace in the hole. And so giving a developer a model saying, hey, I've got one job, and that's to find tenants for my space that are going to be under, a 3 to 5 year administrative service agreement, they're not going anywhere. Right. So once I do the job of filling them, other than making sure my hourly employees are doing their job, it's passive income. Right. And us as the franchisor, we're going to manage the performance and everything of all of the micros. Right. We're going to provide the training and the ongoing support, even help with patient acquisition and everything else. So it's pretty friendly as far as that goes, but the ideal demographic for us to open clinics is going to be operations companies that already have invested in other brands and want to diversify their portfolio. On the micro side, I also think this is one of the things that is an asset for us, is we can rent to chiropractors, we can rent to physical therapists, we can rent to acupuncturists, to massage therapists, to athletic trainers, to nurse practitioners, to Pilates instructors, personal trainers. So who can rent under our model is really pretty diverse, right? So you don't have 5 chiropractors tripping over each other, and every time the phone rings, it's like throwing a steak to a pack of dogs, right? It's like, does somebody want chiropractics, or do they want a massage, or do they want a physical therapist? But it is an integrative, one-stop shop. And so we share patients all the time amongst our clinic, because other people, I might send somebody across the hall because this person just is really tight and they need an assisted stretching session. They're coming right back to me, to line them up in 3 weeks, right? So from that standpoint, it really opens up the pool of who is qualified to be in our system.
So that's great. And so wanted to dive into that a little bit more. So is it exclusive, or is it just kind of, there's not a lot of competition? So in there, like, would you be, say I was the acupuncturist in there, would I be guaranteed to be the only acupuncturist, or?
No, it's not exclusive.
Okay.
So unless, you negotiated that in your ASA, right? And that's between you and the unit owner, right? And so, it could be as part of that ASA, hey, look, I'll sign a 5-year and I'll take, we kind of rent per block of time, right? So it's like, I'm going to rent 3 rooms, 3 days a week, right? And your ASA is going to be based off utilization. So if I would say, hey, I'm going to take all 3 of those rooms, right? Those are my rooms, but I don't want any other acupuncturist in here besides myself. But we also opened up, and again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because we're gonna, I want to make this relevant for everybody else. But one of the learnings that we had along the road is that the micro franchisee, to find, let's just go with a chiropractor, okay, who had the stomach to go off on their own and be an entrepreneur and start a business with structural elements. Okay, it's already a special individual. We're going to give them a lot of support, but they have to also be proactive in building their practice. That same person, as an entrepreneur, probably wants a higher ceiling than fee for service, right? They don't want to bump into a ceiling of, all right, I'm seeing the 35 patients a week that I can handle seeing, and now I'm at the end of my rope, right? They still want growth potential. And so we kind of realized, we missed the mark on that. So one of the things that we have opened up and created the opportunity for is our micro franchisees can have their own employees. Okay. So that means that acupuncturists, they might say, I get the exclusivity, right? And they negotiate that, but they have the ability to hire another acupuncturist to help, meet their hours and fill their space. And even if if it is a regional development thing, you might have that main acupuncturist. They might blaze the trail at each of the new locations in Atlanta, and they might backfill it with acupuncturists to do the fulfillment, right? I mean, now all of a sudden they've built their own little empire, but with no startup capital, right? Because they didn't have any build out expense or anything. Yeah, they're paying a little premium on overhead, but they're getting a bunch of services for that, and they're only paying for the days of utilization, right? So a lot of people make the mistake when they come out of, whatever it is, physical therapy school, chiropractic school, acupuncture school, and they go and they find a space that's really cool, right? And they don't really think about dollar density, per square foot. And they rent it because it's in a great location next to, the salad concept. And they think, oh man, patients are just going to come out of the woodwork. And even if they do, they realize, man, I overextended my overhead, right? And so now they end up, how do I, I'm working all the time just to crack the nut, and so, within this model, you're not doing an expensive build out, and you're not taking on the whole nut. You're not there cleaning toilets on the weekends. You're not doing it all. You're just coming in, dropping your bag, seeing your patients, right? But with the room to grow. So that's how we set it up. And if that person really is entrepreneurial and they want to go open up their own clinic, great, right? If they want to open up their own territory, wonderful. We're not going to, that's the network growth model, right? We're not going to set the ceiling low on anybody, right? But it's a different model. It's not one that most people have seen before. I don't think it exists, to be honest. I mean, I think this is something that we solve for that is pretty unique.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely unique. There's a lot of different, like you said, the salon suites and those types of businesses out there, but this takes it to a whole nother level. Those other ones, and you can throw co-working in this area as well. They're just subleasing space, and that's it.
Yep, that's it.
And so you guys are taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about some of the obstacles that you've had. Like, what are some of the hardest obstacles that you've had to overcome as a franchisor?
Yeah, keeping capital in front of me.
Yeah.
You raise capital once and you give away equity and you think, oh man, this is a lot of money, right? Because, you're used to fee for service, standing over a table. And I'm a great therapist and I've made a great living being a great therapist for a long time, and all of a sudden you step out from under that, you raise 5 years of wages and you think man, we've got a lot of runway here, and then you realize how the vacuum of franchise attorneys and audited financial statements and marketing and all of that, it just is it gets deployed and it gets deployed really fast, And so I think most startups, fail, right? And I think most seasoned, just business owners in general, but definitely most seasoned franchisors, they're doing it right the third swing at it, If I started from zero right now, man, I wouldn't even break ground until I had a growth partner who was, capitalizing us at a very different level, because I have a lot more understanding of what it's actually going to take, So, putting capital in front of us and keeping that runway when it's like I always said, like it kind of felt like I was learning how to play chess, but I didn't know what any of the pieces did, and I didn't know how big the board was, right? And so it's like you're kind of learning as you're going, and then you have COVID that hits, right? And like nobody knows what the pieces do now, and we invested in good data of like customer foot traffic behaviors and where we should put clinics, and like we really understood the industry and competitive who were the else was growing in our space. And then all of that data just became garbage, like in a matter of like a month, right? Foot traffic's changed. Some of them still haven't come back. Some of the foot traffic in major metros that were like financial industry driven, it's like people are working from home. The foot traffic in some of those business districts still hasn't come back online. So, the game changed. And at that point, our goal was to go and open up a cluster of 10 company stores to show what a high functioning region looked like, right? And we assembled the team, we raised capital, and then the party got canceled, and we had to disassemble the team, and we had to, basically try to go into survival mode to stick around, And so, those are really difficult decisions to make, right? It goes back to like Willie Nelson, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, and so, we wanted to keep our existing clinics supported, keep our existing customer bases supported. And so we had to hit the pause button on growth, during the last couple of years.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's a lot of businesses had to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously you're not alone. Nobody that's listening is alone that had to, go into survival mode the last few years. And the way that the market has changed, like you were just saying, Doug, is a lot of the market research that people had done before COVID actually changed.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because of COVID, traffic flows, populations of different areas completely changed.
Yeah, big exits for metros. I mean, you had, this you do a bunch of research on mean household income, and you have a lot of second household income that came out of the workforce to be home with the kids, because you never knew when kids were going to be in school or when they weren't going to be in school. Childcare became like, basically made the juice not worth the squeeze for a lot of people to have their second, household income jobs. That changed the workforce in restaurants, that changed the workforce in schools. I mean, you close everything down for a while, try finding bus drivers,
Yeah.
Especially when, Amazon and everybody else is exploding and, taking a lot of that part of the workforce, underway. In our industry, the big thing that changed was digital health, right? So during COVID, all of a sudden, in the last 3 years, there's been like $18 billion invested in digital healthcare solutions for musculoskeletal care. Right. And that's taken a lot of the vacuum, sucked the air out of the room in terms of availability of a lot of therapists. Right. Because you've got big companies who can pay them. They can work remotely. A lot of them can set their own schedules. And that's very attractive, I think, for a period of time. The last, couple of quarters, the investment in those projects have been next to zero, and I think part of it's because it's overbuilt. And I think part of it is because the customer base still wants to go somewhere and be touched, and I think you can do certain things through the computer, but man, I stick needles in people and I crack backs, you cannot do that through a Zoom call. You just can't, so I think the customer base is coming back our way, which is encouraging. Now I read a lot more about, private equity and VC investing in medical real estate, so I think that there's been a big trend, shifted back towards medical is, good tenants, and medical is here to stay, and medical is growing, and, healthcare is a beast, right? So there's been a lot more willingness to for people to invest in that type of space. So, it'll come back, and it's just time and capital that ultimately gets a good product, to the scale that the product deserves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the way the market is heading right now is looking really good, I think, for a lot of businesses in regards to people coming back and people starting businesses, people wanting to be more in person, even though virtual is such a great luxury that a lot of us have. I think that we're going to find people finding that happy medium here,
Yeah.
because a lot of people got sick of the whole virtual stuff and a lot of the technology, even though it's extremely convenient. People want experience, and
No
people
doubt.
want to go somewhere. They want to make an experience out of their trip, whether that's a trip to a restaurant or a trip to a medical facility or an experience of a physical therapy session or
Sure.
something like that. They want the full
Yeah,
experience.
and we really kind of almost straddle two worlds that are very rarely brought together. Even though we're very orthopedic, right, and we're dealing with knee pain, back pain, we're putting people's hips in alignment, we're fixing ankles and all that kind of stuff. Behind the door, when it's individual treatment rooms, and they feel like you're in like a Japanese like tea house. It's like you're sliding glass doors with glass. The hall lighting glows through, and it's very relaxing. Chill music. When people are on the table, they're there for like better part close to an hour, and nice music. You got a heat lamp on you. You're warm. It's like a very pleasant experience. Especially a lot of people think like, ooh, needles, acupuncture, ew, that sounds like terrifying. Most people are like drooling on my floor, like asleep when I come back in the room. It's like very pleasant, and then they get lined up and kind of show them some exercises, and they walk out like feeling different. So it's not this value proposition of like, hey, stick with the program and you're going to get stronger in 6 to 8 weeks. It's like they walk out like, man, I needed that. And so working from home and doing your PT like through a Zoom call, you still have the dishes waiting for you. You still have the kids, who didn't put away their clothes. You still have, the dogs that are looking at you like, I need to go for a walk. It's hard to take that break and just hit the reset button with all those stimulations at home or at your office. So people enjoy the getaway. They enjoy taking that little mini vacation for that hour, once a month or once every few weeks. It's something they really look forward to. It's like the only dissatisfied patients that I really have are if I ever have to move their appointment and can't get them right back in. That's man, I was really looking forward to this, and but outside of that, people love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I really appreciate you talking about the business and diving into it and understanding both sides of it. Really. What's next for the business? What's next for you guys? What do you guys see in 3 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years if you want to get crazy?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think I've done a really good job getting to this point. I really do. I feel like, we've built a great brand. I feel like our branding is incredible. Our look, our feel, the experience, everything else. But true growth, we need a team of experienced operators, and it's like a little humbling, to get to the point as a founder of like, it's time to pass the torch. But I think we're at a point now where, we need a hands-on growth partner who has the operational expertise to get us, from great concept with proof of concept into like, scale mode. And it's not just capital that's going to take. Cause I could raise $10 million and then I'd have to go build my team, and I'm still the top dog of having to be the expert to hire the right people. And, it's like, we want an operational company to buy our, majority of our shares and to let me be the guru and the teacher and the face of the brand. Put me on the Today Show. I'm your guy, to represent the brand, but at the same time, being CEO, CMO, CFO, janitor, that's kind of, I'm not as young as I was when I first started this project, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do here in the future, and look forward to watching you guys grow. So where could the audience find you if they want to connect with you, Doug?
Yeah, so a couple of different spaces. Structuralelements.com is just like our main website, and then outside of that, the mobile application, SE Lab, is what everybody can benefit from. We have a very simple exercise that's outside of the paywall of the app called Traction Exercise, and it's 3 minutes a day. It involves just laying flat on your back and doing some deep belly breathing. and it completely changes how our body processes stress. It gets us out of a sympathetic state into a parasympathetic state. And if everybody were doing traction, this world would be a different place. So at SE Lab app, you can download that on iPhone or Android, and it's just got some wonderful tools in there. It's like $11 a month. I mean, if you can't prioritize that for your health, then I can't help you.
Absolutely. Awesome. I'll have to check that out myself.
Yeah, please do.
So I appreciate it, Doug. Thanks for coming on. And we look forward to, like I said, seeing you guys grow and seeing the future of structural elements. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Go on, follow us at Franchise Fluent on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. We're there. Thanks, everybody.